Hey, welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer for The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric? How you doing, man?
Not much. It's smoky out here. We got some fires, so
Man, the
kind
whole
of made it
city
through most
was,
of the summer without it.
yeah, it was so visible
Yeah,
at the game. I mean, the guy literally lost a pop-up in the smoke. I haven't seen
yeah,
that before.
yeah.
It's
It covers the whole
crazy,
state.
man.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty extreme. Fortunately, none of that here in San Francisco. It's beautiful, man. Um, Dude, let's start back. Let's start on a sad note, but with the news yesterday, you texted me when I was in a plane yesterday about Anthony Varvaro. What a just a tragic story, man. A great guy that you were friends with. He died yesterday.
Oh
For those who
man.
don't know, he died in a car crash yesterday. He had become a New York cop, gone to transit authority cop school, and became a cop, and yesterday dives in a car crash. Somebody went the wrong way on it, right on, and
On
a
the
collision.
turnpike, yeah.
And a collision. He was on his way to the 9/11 memorial to take part in it. He was going to help with the 9/11 memorial yesterday.
It's yeah, just brutal. Um, I
Former
was
Braves
eating
pitcher.
breakfast. I was eating breakfast, and Medlin called me, and it's like 7 in the morning, and I was thinking, why is Medlin calling me at 7 in the morning? But sometimes you don't feel like talking that early. If
Yeah,
somebody's having, what's going on or
yeah.
whatever. And then I thought about it, and I was like, why would he be calling me at 7 in the morning? So I answered it, and he was on the other line just crying, and I guess he was just he was filling us all in what happened. But yeah, Anthony was on his way to help out with a 9/11 memorial service, and somebody's going the wrong way on the turnpike and crashed into him head on. I mean,
Unbelievable, man.
it's brutal. I mean, he's got a family, wife, kids, 37 years old.
This
One
is
of
a
the
guy
greatest
that
kids, too.
this is a guy that yeah, one of the nicest guys that I ever
Nicest
covered,
ever.
man. And one of the few guys that I don't know how few, but I mean, a guy that had a major league career, and instead of going on and using baseball and going to coach somewhere or
Yeah.
whatever afterwards, or work as a scout or for somebody or an assistant, whatever in an organization, the guy became a cop, man, to serve people,
Yeah.
making a fraction of what he used to make playing baseball, putting his life on the line, and he wasn't doing this, in Lawrence, Kansas, where I went to school. He's doing this in New York City.
Yeah.
So what a
Something he
guy,
always
man.
wanted to do. He was one of those dudes that you can't see and not smile.
Yeah.
He didn't say a lot, but he always had this look on his face like he knew what you were really up to. Like he knew the scoop on you. And he had this sly little smile that always just, kind of broke the ice. And every day, same guy, every day, good mood. Rookies, anybody in the clubhouse, he always treated them the same, treated every single person, the clubhouse guys. I mean, it's who you want to be. Honestly, it's every day he's nice to every single person he comes across, treats everybody with respect.
He was like that
I
with
don't
us,
know
man.
anybody that would have a bad thing to say about him.
He was like
Just
that
one of
with
my
us.
favorite people to be around.
Yeah. 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 You're right. I mean, every time you go over and you need to ask him a question or whatever, you walk up to him, you'd start smiling because you knew he was going to be so pleasant to
Yep.
talk to him.
Yep.
So anyway,
Sucks.
so that's rough, man. And for those might not seen it, Ken Rosenthal tweeted a link to a GoFundMe for his family. Port Authority police officer in New
I didn't
York
see
and New
that.
Jersey, and yeah, if you go to Ken's Twitter feed, and I retweeted it too, so it's on mine, and it's a GoFundMe collection for the Varvaro family, organized by Matthew Martino. And if you guys want to help out, there it is. So, uh, yeah, geez. Um, so yeah, I mean, it puts some things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Here we're going to talk about some bad stuff with baseball and some good stuff with baseball, but it's all a game. It's all our careers, professions, yes, but it's not life. It's not literally life and death, And this is a guy left a
Yeah.
family behind and just dies suddenly on his way to do something to pay tribute,
Yeah.
To people who died in service. So, all right, listen, the Braves got that series in Seattle, man. They lose 2 out of 3 games, but it just tells you how fast things can turn when they that game yesterday was one of the craziest games that I can recall of an important game, and I mean, between 2 teams that could go as far as they could go all that. I mean, that wouldn't shock me if that was a World Series match up there. I don't think it will be. I think one of those teams will probably make it. I think the Braves have a lot better chance of making it than the Mariners. But the Mariners can make the World Series. There's no doubt they are that good, especially with the Yankees not being – they're a shell of the team they were at the start of the year. And there's nobody in the AL that's running away with it. The Mariners are really good. With that Luis Castillo pickup at the trade deadline, their rotation is strong. And yesterday, I mean, it was one of those games that the Braves had in recent years that's in their DNA seemingly under Snit. They're down 6-2, 2 outs in the ninth, down to their last strike. They get 2 home runs from Harris and Grossman, and they lead 7-6 all of a sudden. And that crowd, huge crowd, is just silence. They're like, except for the Braves fans, there was a lot of Braves fans. But all of a sudden, the Braves are up 7-6 and in position to win the series after being yesterday doing nothing for most of 9 innings, doing nothing and looking like they're going to, lose that game with just a sputtering offense and lose the series. Then all of a sudden it looks like, they're going to win this series and leave there with huge momentum. And Kenley comes in and gives up back-to-back, or not back-to-back, but gives up 2 solo homers in the ninth, and they get walked off. So that's how fast the emotions went from down here to up here to down here. Just a crazy, crazy game, and it underscored what we've talked about for a couple of weeks now with Kenley.
Yeah. I mean, there's 4 game-changing home runs in about 10 minutes, it felt like. You never see
2
that.
by the presumptive rookies of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Rodriguez is going to get rookie of the year hands down in the AL, but I think Harris has got to.
I don't know how you can watch that Harris at bat.
I don't either. Off
a really tough reliever. And he's just done it so many times. It wasn't random. It wasn't like, oh, look, he got a big hit. I was watching that at bat like, this motherfucker's going to do it again.
Yeah.
He's going to get a big hit here.
I've been a while since I've seen somebody go up there and with the confidence you have in them in late and close situations, that ninth inning. And you're talking about a player who was the youngest player in the majors for most of the year. He's now second youngest. But I know what Strider's done is good enough to win rookie of the year in a lot of years. And he's done historic things with strikeouts. But you can't give it to me. You can't give it to a guy who became a starting pitcher at the end of May and has done great stuff every 5 days over a guy he's arguably been the Braves MVP now. Yeah. I mean, he might have moved ahead of Austin Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy hitting 310 with an OPS over 900
in center field.
In center field, playing Gold Glove defense, and has been the best hitter on the team in the late and close situations. And this is a team with some clutch hitters like Dansby Swanson.
He got 1 strike in that at bat yesterday, maybe 2. I mean, there was a lot of generous calls. I felt like the ump had a flight to catch or something. So he was calling to get that game over with. There was borderline pitches definitely off the plate that Castillo got, and then Harris gets 1 hanging slider and hits it 7,000 feet. Again, those StatCast estimates, that ball was destroyed off the top of the Hit It Here Cafe, and they said 430. Like, it's one of the farther balls I've seen hitting that stadium to right field.
Yeah, the estimates in that series were all messed up, man. Yeah, I didn't understand that. By the way, in scoring position, with runners in scoring position now, Michael Harris is hitting 400. He's 28 for 70. Wow. He leads the majors among guys who've had at least 60 at-bats with runners in scoring position. Leads the majors. He's hitting 400 with 4 homers and an 11-18 OPS, 671 slugging percentage with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, I mean, he's That's what I'm saying. It's not like he's just done this here and there. It feels like every time he comes up in a big situation with runners on, game on the line, even if he doesn't get a knock, it's a damn tough at bat. And most of the time he gets a knock or does something.
The only guys with OPS higher than him, 60 ABs or more, runners in scoring position, the only guy, 3 guys in the majors with OPS higher than him, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, and Bryce Harper.
It's good company.
MVPs and future MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's good company. I mean, this kid might get MVP votes. If he keeps this up, he's going to get MVP votes and finish well into the top 10 if he keeps this up for another 4 weeks. I think he's going to move ahead of Austin Riley. Maybe people see him. So he's doing it in big games. He's doing it on TV, big games.
Yeah, he's got to get Rookie of the Year. If that didn't cement it yesterday, I mean, it's kind of like, Strider does something and it's like, ooh, he's having a really good season. And then Harris just comes out and does that. He reminds you every time.
Yeah, and that is not at all to dismiss what Strider's done, because it's been unbelievable. Strider's been terrific and good enough to win Rookie of the Year most years. But what Harris is doing does not happen from rookies. I mean, him and Julio Rodriguez both. But Harris, what he's doing, especially in clutch situations, this team is nowhere, not even close to where they are without Michael Harris.
No, I agree.
So what a series, and what a really brutal loss for the Braves. That's a wrenching one to come back like that in the 9th, and then so quickly to see it go up in flames. And I think the part that a lot of fans have a problem with is they and I did not feel confident at all, even after they come back and take a 1-run lead.
Yeah.
You don't feel confident when Kenley goes out there now, and that's not the feeling you want to have with your closer, man. With your closer, you're supposed to have that opposite feeling. You're supposed to feel like this game's won.
Yeah, it's a wrap. Yeah.
You just don't have it right now with Kenley.
I feel the same way. It's tough because I've thought about it, and if you don't throw him in the 9th, when are you throwing him? I mean, I don't know that he can do these other roles, but I also agree that when he comes into the game right now, it's like, it just seems like a lot of chance. It seems like he's getting by throwing really, nasty movement in random locations. He hasn't been locating like normal. And now I saw Contreras back there trying to adjust with him, because he'd call a cutter and he'd miss middle end.
Yeah.
So then he tried a different pitch. He tried sinker. He tried curveball. So he went to the curveball against Rodriguez, threw an okay one, not very good, kind of backed up on him, but it was down. And then he tried to give him a chance to correct it, and he doubled up on the curveball. And, I don't know if maybe it's just this year or maybe it's always been that way, but I don't know if Kenley's secondary stuff has ever been that great. Right. It's just the fact that his cutter is such a tough pitch to hit.
Right.
That when you mix in those other pitches and they give you a different look, you get some bad swings.
Right.
But throwing back-to-back curveballs to Julio right there, and the second one's on a tee.
Yep.
Gives up a bomb. And then Suarez, he tried to go sinker in because he's backing up that cutter into a kind of a danger zone, right? Mm-hmm. He's missing arm side with a pitch that's supposed to go glove side. When you almost push it, it winds up kind of balancing out the break it's supposed to have and the angle you throw it on to where it just stays straight. So Contreras tries to, and Contreras tries to call off that. So he tries to call the sinker, but I really just think yesterday they hadn't seen enough cutters yet to try to trick him, and he's got to stay with his strength. But I mean, the catchers are in a tough spot when he keeps backing up his cutter middle, because that's really the only spot righties are going to do serious damage against him.
Yeah, those 2 pitches were right over the middle, man.
Yeah.
And they were crushed, and it was over.
And that's kind of the thing, with why I'm saying I don't know how he can do these other roles, is because he's got the deception, he's got the movement, he's got the extension to where he's a really tough guy to put together an inning against. Like, he's throwing when he throws a bad cutter, it's still up in the zone. He gets him to swing under. Then he throws a good one. They get it off the end of the bat. He's throwing this. I'm not going to call it random. I don't know if there's a method to what he's doing. I don't know if he can make it cut one time and make it kind of stay straight the next. He might be able to. He's been doing it for long enough. But if you're just throwing a shit ton of movement and you can get in the zone, like you have good odds of getting through an inning. But if I bring you in second and third in the eighth and I need a strikeout, I don't know that he can dictate a strikeout.
Right.
I think he can pitch to contact and get bad contact, but it might be a bloop single. When you look at Iglesias and Minter in those situations in the eighth, they can come in and they can pitch to a strikeout.
Right.
So I don't, I'm not saying you have to keep him closing. I just think the Braves are trying so hard to get him right closing.
Yeah.
Because it'd be extremely convenient for how the rest of your pen stacks up if he stays closing and he gets right. But I'm sure they're getting to the point where everybody's at where it's tough to have a closer you don't feel confident in.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that is the predicament. But at this point, it's like you're down the stretch. This is not cutting time, and each of these games is so huge if you want to win the division. And I agree, you can't bring him in with runners on base. You have to limit him to starting the seventh or eighth inning clean.
Yep.
And then getting him out of there if he runs into trouble. And sure, he could blow a game in the seventh or eighth inning too. But I think you don't bring him into the ninth inning in a close game like that. And that's why I think Iglesias is pitching too well not to have him closing games now.
I text you when Iglesias his last outing, and he didn't miss the glove. And I said, shit, this guy looks good. And, I basically, my thought is I don't know how Kenley would handle being asked to do a different role or what that conversation looks like, but I'd probably have it and just be like, hey, do you think you can? Because Iglesias just looks, he's not missing the glove. He's throwing 3 different pitches and he's placing them in areas where he can't get hurt really consistently. He seems to me like a guy that can manipulate an inning and really pitch right now. And he looks great. He's got really good stuff too.
Yeah, whatever issues Iglesias was having with the Angels before the trade, he seems to have rectified because he's pitching like peak Iglesias now.
Yep.
He looks great.
Yeah.
And they got him signed for 3 more years. So I'm sure they're like going, they obviously knew it was fixable, whatever problems he was having, because he still had some good numbers, some good secondary numbers, some analytics, on his pitches, even though the results weren't great with the Angels. Basically ballooned by a couple of really bad outings where, let everybody score, the bases loaded and a couple of things. But they obviously knew there was nothing wrong with him physically, and he was still throwing hard and still damn good because they committed to 3 more years of him at $18 million a year. So that's the positive. It's Braves got their closer going forward. They don't have to worry about fixing that for each year now, going year to year with anybody. But I think with Kenley, it's like, you got to have that conversation and see how he takes it. But you can't be worried about his feelings at this point either. He's not a guy he's not signed long-term. He's not signed after this year. So
no, I don't think it's worrying about his feelings. I think it's just,
right. Right.
The closer's role is comfy. You know exactly when you're going to pitch. You know exactly when to warm up. There's never a time where you get hot in the 6th and then you warm up again in the 8th and then you have to throw the top of the 10th. It's just, you look at the score, you're up by 6, keep your feet up, or maybe stretch a little bit. You're up by 3. All right, I probably got this. You start locking in and getting ready. It's so comfy. It's not easy. It's not an easy job, but it's a comfy job and it's a consistent job. When you start asking guys, and that's why I'm saying you already know Minter can do it. Chavez can get ready for any situation you throw at him. Iglesias can do it. McHugh can do it. These guys can be ready at any time and handle this thing. Kenley hasn't been asked to do that. I don't know when the last time he wasn't the closer for a team was. So what's his routine look like?
Dodgers in the postseason. They won a World Series without him closing.
That's right.
They jerked him out of that role because of this.
Right.
And Yates is pitching a lot better lately. That's a good sign, because for a while there it was good looking kind of like but he's looked a lot better lately. Those 4 you mentioned, along with Yates, you are going to need more from your relievers in the postseason this year without the off days, but you might have enough there, especially since McHugh can go multiple innings. Um, anything you get from Dylan Lee at this point. Am I leaving anybody else out? But those guys you mentioned, though. Yeah, Matzik. Obviously Matzik. Obviously Matzik is pitched much better too. He's still not the Matzik of last year, though.
No,
I mean he's not a closer option in my opinion at this point. But but he's your other guy. You got 5 guys there. I'm not even counting Dylan Lee, and I think Yates has moved into that, but he'd be your 5th. But you got 4 with Matzik and those other 3 guys that are really good. So it's not. I don't think it's a thing where you have to have Kenley pitching. High leverage.
Yeah.
You want him. You hope he could adjust and pitch in 7th or 8th inning in important situations, but he doesn't have to. I don't know.
And here we are having this conversation a year after the exact same scenario played out with Will Smith last year.
Yep. And I was proven wrong, and I think a lot of others were proven wrong who thought Will Smith should have been replaced. Yeah. I don't know that Will Smith had a stretch like Kenley has gone through lately. It was just more. There was always
shit everywhere. Yeah,
guys on base. Right.
It was scary every time, but he found a way. Right. Sometimes even that makes people want to be like, this guy can't be closing for us because he's giving us a heart attack. But that's kind of why I'm trying to be fair here, is because their best possible layout for their bullpen is if Kenley gets right.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt.
And I understand that he's struggling, and you're running out of, you got to win the division. You don't have a comfy lead. You're running out of time for him to get right, because you're going to put yourself in a tough position in the playoffs if he doesn't. But ideally, he gets right, and then you have all these tools from the 6th to the 8th to get the ball to him. That they're all versatile guys.
And a difference between Will Smith last year, you had made that run and made up all that ground, and the Mets were
falling off.
And the Mets were not that tough.
Nope.
Last year, you felt confident you could catch them. This year, they are that tough. So you feel like every game is so vital. And winning the division is so important this year. Not just getting in the postseason, winning the division. Getting a first-round bye as one of the top 2 teams in the NL. Not having to play a best-of-3 wild card series and use your top 2 or 3 starters. So winning the division is huge this year. And each of these games. So it's a different situation than last year. You feel like a blown save is so costly this year, whereas it didn't feel like it last year. I thought you had more time, even though I thought Will Smith should have been swapped out, and I was wrong because he flipped that switch in the last week or 2 of the regular season, and all the postseason he was dynamite. So, but I just felt, last year it wasn't as crucial, when everybody was howling for Will Smith, to be replaced for the last 2 months of the season. I was like, Snit's loyal. And they're still winning, and they're still going to catch the Mets. So it was a little different. I think that's
I agree.
Reason for the anxiety probably that people are feeling right now. Kenley's last 7 appearances. He's 0-2, 3 blown saves, 4 saves, 3 blown saves. He's pitched 5 2/3 innings, given up 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts with a 1.94 whip. His last 7 appearances.
1.94?
Yep.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, and that's the crazy thing. You look at his numbers on the whole for the year.
Right.
The ERA is the worst stat. The rest of them aren't bad. His whip's good. Right. His batting average isn't bad. But that's kind of what I'm getting at is I don't know if he just needs to lock in or what he needs to fix, but it doesn't feel like he's in total control of the outings when he comes in. And I think that's that makes you kind of uneasy about it is.
Yeah.
He's just relying on the movement. It's almost like he's wild within the zone. There's 2 types of control. There's guys that can't throw strikes, and then there's guys that can throw strikes, but they're wild within the strike zone, and that's kind of where he's at. And he's wild with his movement. It's the backup cutters, middle. If you're throwing cutters and you're just on the corner and one of them breaks off and one of them stays on the plate, but they're all kind of in this safety zone.
Yeah,
he's just been missing in the nitro zone so much, and you saw it last night. It makes it scary to bring the guy into a 1-run game.
Yeah, last 30 games whip 1.24. Last 15 games whip 1.46. Last 7 games whip 1.94. So it's obviously going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Last 15 games the ERA is at 5.27. the walks and then the home runs have not been an issue. It's been a solo here and there, or one home run, but 2 yesterday. That was a backbreaker. Obviously, speaking the most obvious time. But
and he got beat on his second and third best pitch.
Yeah,
for me was kind of the. There's something to read into there. Whether it's his cutter is not very good right now, or he's missing with the cutter a lot. But whatever Contreras saw that made him want to go away from Kenley's go-to, his bread and butter.
Yeah.
That for me is a bad sign too. It's like we're going to try curveballs and two-seamers against guys that can take you deep if you miss in those spots. And
yeah, man, we're seeing. Speaking of the other guy that homered, the big homer in that inning, Grossman.
Yeah,
we're seeing why the Braves traded for him, aren't we?
Yeah,
he's a good player, man. He's a good player.
I like his swing. Either compact. He has good at bats. I mean, those are the type of guys that they don't get anybody excited when you get them, but then you add them to a lineup like the Braves had, and he's just nice, just a nice like accessory piece to it. Just a good at bat, compact swing, getting some big knocks for him, never giving away an at bat. I mean, it's just a nice piece to add to it. When you're a pitcher and if that tough at bat comes up, the guy battles and he'll keep the ball in play, and he slaps a single, and then you got Acuna up. It's one of those guys that's really nice to have in your lineup.
Yeah, they fixed him, man, because when he came over, his swing was a mess. He had been bad with Detroit this year. You're the Tigers, and you're their fans. You got to be looking at Odorizzi going, what happened, man? Why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we fix him? Because Braves didn't give up much to get him. And he's
Grossman,
yeah, and he's playing a very big role right now.
Yeah, there's some organizations that's the number one thing I'd look at is how do our guys do when they leave, and how do guys do when they show up here? If guys happen to get worse when they show up and better when they leave, I don't care how nice the guys working for you are. They're not nailing it.
Yeah, man. And all I was thinking yesterday was the depth. I'm looking at the depth the Braves have and how far they've come with depth under Alex Anthopoulos, how he stressed that depth. Because yesterday, you're looking at a situation, you're already playing without your all-star second baseman. And you plug in Grissom has been terrific. And he looks like yesterday briefly gave everybody a scare because it looks like the super rookie there, the third super rookie on this team this year. They got two 21-year-olds and Strider all just playing incredible for him. But Von Grissom has been terrific, and he goes down yesterday in that collision with Grossman is a big boy.
Stayed down for a minute.
Looked like they just knock knees, and those can be some bad situations. Stayed down, and you thought, oh shit, he's going to be out for a while. And you're thinking the worst, and then you're thinking how much depth they have because Ozzy can come back if they need to bring him back now. They
ready.
Would. Right. He's not doing yet what they want him to do, but he's healthy, and you could bring him back. So I'm thinking the drop off from what it would have been in the past. When you lose second baseman and you're plugging in guys, journeymen there who should be out of baseball, should not be in the major league. Right. You're playing guys that should not be in the major leagues at second base. And instead, the Braves are getting great production from a 21-year-old kid, and they can bring Ozzy back when they need to. And they got a guy like Grossman where they don't have to play, they've been able to kind of protect Ozuna to a degree. Even with and they've been able to protect that lately Acuna when obviously playing in the field. I mean, his knee is just not completely healed yet, and he's still not himself at the plate at all.
No,
but at least he's able to play. Right, that he used to crush. But at least he's able to play.
Yeah.
Right. But he's able to play every day. He's a presence at the top of the order. I mean, he's still without him, you'd be a lot worse off. But they're able to DH him. So they got depth, is what I'm saying. Is they're not desperate. They're not playing guys who should be in AAA on this team, and they're getting production. And that bottom of the order has saved their asses this year because the bottom of the order,
it has.
On days when the top of the order has struggled a little bit. Austin's gone through his funks. Obviously, Acuna's not anything close to being himself, but the bottom of the order has been so productive. I mean, just blows away.
Harris shouldn't be down there. You know what I mean? Right. They've whatever their reasoning is for keeping him down there is worked awesome, and I wouldn't mess with it. But on a lot of teams, he's in the 1 or 2 hole already.
Absolutely, he's getting pitches to hit down there. They're not able to pitch around him, And even Acuna, people still don't want to face him,
No.
And then you got Dansby coming up, you got Riley, you got Olsen coming up. The top four is still, any of those guys can take you out on any pitch. So
yeah, I think that's one of the things about Acuna too is, I watch him and I'm like, shit, he would have hit that pitch.
Right.
460 before his surgery. It's a lot of fastballs away that he's just a tick late on or not getting through. But when he's on deck and you're facing the 9-hole, he's coming up to do damage.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't do damage, if he gets a knock, he's got speed. So it definitely forces you to kind of go see the bottom of that order, which, there's a lot of leadoff guys that you're not afraid of because they're just going to, like McNeil or somebody, all right, this guy's going to try to slap the ball around, but I'm not afraid of him. Acuna's still got that fear factor, even when he's not hitting for all his power, where you don't want to face him with a runner on.
Cam, you got an ad to read?
Yeah, just real quick, like to shout out the folks over at LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/real. That's linkedin.com/real, REAL, to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right. Just to underscore what we've been talking about with Acuna, in September, I'm looking at his September stats now. 9 games. He is hitting .205. He's 8 for 39, 3 doubles, no homers, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. I mean, this is just not anything. It's a shell of Acuna, the strikeouts, the walks, the lack of power. So, if you talk to people, he just gave us, he gave us a false sense of security that first month where he was like, okay, this guy's not natural. He's just going to be himself after coming off major knee surgery. But I think he went a little too hard, too fast. And I think the knee, once they got some inflammation going in that knee, changed everything. The insecurities feeling in his head. They might literally not allow him to. Somebody showed the other day.
I saw that.
Side by side, and you could really see the rotational.
I think that was on the Apple broadcast, wasn't it?
Yes, it was on the Apple broadcast. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It was Hunter Pence talking about it. You could literally see the difference in how far he was rotating with his normal swing when he's getting his power and where he seemed to be stopping with the knee bothering him.
And that's not something you can consciously just say, I'm going to do.
Right.
Especially because you'll do it one time and it'll hurt. And your body will be like, okay, we're not going into that position again.
Right.
But, then you lose a little bat speed. You lose a little bit of your bat path changes because you're not able to rotate the same. And I think that's all you're really seeing is you're just seeing him miss those pitches, especially pitches on the outer half or fastballs up and in that he used to just destroy the opposite field or yank down the line, and he just can't get to him. And I'm sure he's so damn frustrated.
Yeah.
First of all, he was the talk of the town. Now you got these 3 rookies.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about Acuna this year.
No.
Nationally
or even locally. I mean, he's got he's
a good player,
huge group of fans, and he's a great player, great talent. But you're not hearing about him outside of his group of fans because these other guys are being so much more impactful for the Braves this year. And then around baseball, these other players that class he came up with are all making headlines, while he's been hurt. Unfortunately,
that's got to be really frustrating for him. It's got to be really frustrating not hitting the pitches he's used to, but I think this will all be really, really good for him. To give him some perspective that nobody gives a shit about you unless you're good.
Right.
Nobody cares. If you're not good, nobody gives a shit about you. And you have to learn that in baseball. And that's kind of how you become cool, get over yourself, is that you realize that none of these none of this. People aren't your friends. They don't give a shit. They care if you're good, and then they love you. And so you learn that lesson, and you stop putting so much value in how you're treated by the fans and what ESPN's saying about you, and you realize it can all be gone like that. And then you just play baseball. But I think it'll also be really good for him because next year he's gonna feel good,
right?
And next year he's gonna be hitting those pitches, and he's gonna remember what it felt like to not suck, but he sucks for him. He does not suck right now, but he sucks for him.
Right.
He's going to remember what it feels like and how quickly you can lose it, how fast your abilities can go away. And I think it's just going to keep him more and more focused and more. This year is going to make him hungry. So I think next year is going to be a really, really fun season for him. And I think he's just got to wear it this year, and it's not easy to do.
Great points, man. And I agree. I agree totally. It's to see him not crush those pitches and to be hesitant, taking a lot of close pitches now that he normally would have destroyed, or at least tried to.
He could afford to because he could hit them.
He's taking called third strikes now.
Yep.
It's just it doesn't resemble the guy, and it's obvious that he's limited by the knee. And the second year, though, to get back to what I was saying, is a lot of guys talk about, especially in football, running backs coming back, talk about that first year back is hard. They can't do the things that they were used to doing. But that Adrian Peterson aside, he was the freak. But most guys, the second year is when they get back to being themselves. And I think he will get back to being himself. I don't buy this. You see some people opine online because they're just normal people like me, or they're a recreational athlete. And they say, my knee has never been the same. I've never been. Because you didn't spend all day, every day in physical therapy, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have time to stay away from your job and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to people to rehab this thing. He does.
You did 3 months of tubing at home, and you went back to sit at the desk.
Right. That's what he does. This is his living, and he will get back. The knee, Chipper Jones didn't say, when he was winning MVP in 1999, if I hadn't hurt my knee, I'd be able to do even more. No, it didn't, It might have bothered him late in his career when arthritis might have been setting in or whatever, but it didn't slow Chipper Jones after, he came back. And that was back in the relatively primitive era of ACL reconstruction. So I don't have any doubt that Acuna is going to get back to 100%. It's just going to be not till next year, obviously. He's not even close to that this year. But I think he'll get back and be, the Acuna. But, it's got to be tough. You're in this, and especially this series. You're in the series where the two kids who are making big names for themselves, the guys that are going to win Rookie of the Year, the role you were in just a few years ago where you were the talk of baseball 2 years ago. All of a sudden, these two kids are stealing all the headlines. And in this 3-game series, Acuna goes 1 for 13, no extra base hits, no runs, no 1 run, no walks, 4 strikeouts. I mean, he did almost
just
nothing.
A non-factor. Yeah.
He had 2 stolen bases in the series. He was only ones of the month. That was it. That's all he did.
Yeah.
And he was DH, so he can't even do anything in the field.
That's what I'm saying I think it's a year that's going to make him grow, though. And I think every player has to learn this lesson that you're only, as cool as or as good as your last game. Baseball is what have you done lately, and that's not to a fault of anybody. That's just the nature of playing an entertainment sport. Nobody cares when you're not doing shit, and I think that a lot of guys become attached to it, and their identity gets wrapped up in it. And then when you're not getting attention, you can go out and try harder or try to do something or get frustrated, and pretty soon you take a step back and you realize like, my squad's in this clubhouse. These 25 guys in here know how hard I work. They know what I put in. They appreciate the small things I do. And you stop caring if you're on ESPN or, if your highlight gets, if your celebrations and stuff, if they're on anything, and you just focus on, I'm part of this group and I want to win. And I think it's a good thing that happens to guys and helps them mature.
Another not problem area, but another area where the Braves need to kind of shore up. Jake Odorizzi has not given them the back of the rotation stability they had hoped for when they traded Will Smith to get him at the deadline. And then by doing so, I know everybody said, well, they didn't give up anything to get him. Well, they committed to paying him a $12.5 million option next year, or most likely a $6.25 million buyout on his contract. And everybody, if you look at it, if you just do a quick Google search, you're going to come up with half those totals, 6.2, I think, option and a $3 million buyout or whatever. No, those are vested. He only had to make like 30 starts over a 2-year span, 30 something starts over. He's made them, right? And so those options are maxed out now at $12.5 million with a $6.25 million buyout, basically is what it is. Well, he's going to take the buyout almost certainly, because it's kind of like Duvall when he had the buyout and remained a free agent. You take the buyout, you exercise, you don't pick up the option, because with the buyout, then you add what you're going to get in a salary. Well, he'd only have to get a $7 million, $6.5 million salary next year from somebody to make more than he would get exercising that player option, 12.5.
Right.
You know so, and as shaky as he's been, he's still
good enough to get that.
Right. A veteran starting pitcher on the market.
Throw 160 innings, you get $8 million.
Right. He might get $10 million from somebody next year, So he's either way, the Braves are on the hook for that. So, and he's had a couple of starts where he looked like, okay, like that one where he took a no-hitter into the 6th inning in St. Louis, He pitched great. But like yesterday, they had high hopes for him going into the Sunday finale against the Mariners because of what he had done against the Mariners this year when he was with the Astros. 3 starts against the Astros or against the Mariners with the Astros. He had a 2.00 ERA, 13 and a third scoreless innings coming in the last 2 starts, or 13 2/3, one of those. His last 2 starts against them. His last start against them had come, his last start with the Astros before the trade had come against Seattle. He had 8 strikeouts, 7 scoreless innings, 2 hits allowed in that game, July 31st. So he had big hopes going into yesterday. And he didn't make it out of the 4th inning yesterday in a big game for the Braves. Gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks. He's now 1-2 with a 4.97 ERA and 6 starts for the Braves. 35 hits, 16 earned runs. And here's the killer, 10 walks in 29 innings, just 22 strikeouts. And 7 of those 22 strikeouts came in one game against Pittsburgh. Half of his 6 starts for the Braves, he's lasted fewer than 5 innings. And he got fewer than 6 innings in 5 of the 6 starts for the Braves. So, and it's not a strikeout pitcher, obviously, or hasn't been for the Braves. So, unfortunately, Mike Soroka does not look ready to step in that role yet, and we didn't really think he was going to. I know fans had high hopes, but we thought this is a year where just to get his feet under him, pitch some games, and go into the offseason feeling good. But right now, he doesn't look ready to step into that role for sure. And Ian Anderson, they had hoped he'd go down to AAA and figure some things out. So far, he's not done that to any kind of consistency or made any improvement at all. So he doesn't look ready to slip back in there. Fortunately, Kyle Muller has looked good, and Bryce Elder has looked good in the 2 times up. Elders both have come against the Marlins, though, so I take that with a grain of salt. But Muller has looked pretty good. So I think down the stretch, if you need to, you could always go to them. But, no one Snitty's probably going to stick with Odorizzi for at least another start or 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same concept as Kenley. If he can lock in, you're better with him. Than giving up on them. That they're just, like we talked about, they're in a tougher spot where they can't afford to dink around and give away games.
Yeah.
So ideally in the playoffs, if he gets right by then, you're a stronger team with him right than you are trying to piggyback, Elder and Kyle Muller, because you don't know what you're going to get out of them. But at this point, you don't know what you're getting out of Odorizzi either. The good news is that they got 4 solid starters.
And that's all they need for the postseason.
That's where you want to be. If you can have 4, you're looking pretty good. And there's not really, Charlie's been throwing the ball a lot better. Strider, Freed's been, who he is. And Kyle's been throwing the ball great. So,
yeah, right. Leads in NL and wins.
Yeah.
Your foursome is better. It's better than any team's foursome. With the Dodgers and the injuries they have.
Yeah.
The Mets are the only team that, because they're so good in the first 2, are the only, but we've seen again with Scherzer getting hurt. It's like I'd take the Braves foursome, I think, against anybody's going to the postseason.
Yeah.
Because they're all healthy. Freed's pitching great. Wright's pitching great. Charlie is one of the best postseason pitchers in the last decade. And Strider is phenomenal. He's a strikeout machine. So I like that foursome getting the postseason. It's just getting to the postseason that every 5th day you don't feel good about Odorizzi going out there at all, and every game's a win is so important if you want to win the division. So
well, that's why, I mean, with that foursome already locked in, you don't need him necessarily locked in for the playoffs, and then you toy around, I mean, maybe give him another one, maybe don't, trust they have all these analytics, and you can look at the stats and say, what gives us the best chance to win this game? If it's Moeller, if it's Elder, if it's piggyback, open, whatever you have to do at this point. If you don't need him in the postseason and the other four guys are healthy, I think you toy around and do whatever you have to do. I mean, I don't think you worry about anybody's feelings at this point.
It's a roster spot, so I don't know if you can do it, but if you could have Moeller ready, ready to come in, jerk, so you don't have to use the whole bullpen. You could get Odorizzi out of there in a second or third inning if you had to, and if you had Moeller ready to go 6 innings.
I like that. I like a quick hook and somebody backing him up.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a roster spot, but it might be worth doing right now. Down the stretch.
Yeah.
That's a game yesterday. They win despite Odorizzi, not because of it. Or they would have won. Odorizzi and Jansen started it and ended it in horrible fashion. I mean, that's a game they won yesterday against all odds. It was that would have been tremendous. It went from being the biggest win of the season to being the most difficult loss in a span of in a span of a few
I don't know.
hours.
I mean, I think as a team you can look at it and be like, shit, we had no business being in a position to blow it anyway. I don't think it
for the fans.
You can rationalize it for the fans. Yeah. I mean, just the highs and lows of holy shit, we came back. I can't believe this. This team's amazing. This is why we won the World Series shit. We lost.
Yeah, I think most of all for the team leaving there, you got to feel good about it because you went into Seattle.
Yeah.
They had the biggest crowds of the year there. They were sold out, and you came back and you should have won that series. If Jansen pitches a decent inning, you win that series. You have the biggest comeback of the year against a really good team. You're not doing that against, the year they did it against the Reds, when they scored 9 in the 9th or whatever it was. You're doing that against
Conrad,
You're doing that against the hottest team in the AL right now. You should have won that series. So as a team, you can feel good about what you've done so far. Now
and if they squared up with those guys with their 3 studs, their 3 best against the Mariners 3 best, I think they win that series too.
Right. And that's after sweeping the 2 at Oakland, and
they're fine. I mean, some of those losses just suck, but I mean, if they've cut a 10-game lead all the way down, they have the best record. Like everything's still great.
They have best record since June 1st.
The Mets are good. They're not just going to fold when you get up a half game on them. I mean, this thing's going to come down to the wire no matter what. And if you're the team, you just say, shit, that was a tough one. We keep trucking. And you go to San Francisco and try to win a series there.
Yeah. I guess the Giants team that's not nearly what they had hoped to be. And they're not going to the postseason, but they're still pretty good.
I don't understand the Giants this year.
No, I don't either. All right. Well, we'll do this again later in the week after the Braves play this 3-game series here in San Francisco, and we'll see where they are. But we're at that stretch, man. Every game feels so important. You look at the standings constantly, and there's a lot to like about this Braves team. That's for sure. A lot to like about where they are and their chances.
No, they're good.
They sure look a lot better than they did a year ago at this time. If you remember where they were.
For sure.
All right.
7:55
is real, man.
Later in the week.
RIP to Anthony Varvaro, man. Thanks, everybody.